Hey everyone, Ted Keith here along with Steve Cannella for SI.com. And Steve, we're talking about some of the teams that are not off to the starts that we expected them to be at. When you look around Major League Baseball, so many of those teams that we were sure were going to get to October barely made it out of April alive. Out of that grouping, which is the one that is most surprising to you that they're behind the eight ball here?
Someone on this stage picked the Indians to win the World Series this year. I'm not sure who that would be. That pick is not looking so good right now. I'm surprised at the way the Indians have played. They have one of the worst records in the American League right now. To me, though, the most surprising stumble out of the gate is the Red Sox, especially after the way they played for the first week to 2 weeks of the season. They looked really good. After their first turn through the rotation, the Red Sox starting pitching has just been awful. We knew that was going to be a weakness for them this year, but I think a lot of people thought their starting pitching would be adequate enough so that, and their offense, which projected to be the best in the American League, could really make up for a lot of that, and they could just outscore teams. That hasn't happened, partly because their pitching has been so bad. Clay Buchholz has an ERA way over 5. Rick Porcello has an ERA way over 5. Wade Miley wishes his ERA were still in the 5s. The Red Sox have to really right the ship with their starting pitching and give their offense a chance to really just try to outslug teams.
Yeah, I agree. And speaking of slugging, out in Seattle, Nelson Cruz is looking like he's already on a pace for putting up the kind of home run numbers that we were used to seeing, 15 or so years ago, and that no one is doing anymore except for Nelson Cruz, who led the majors in home runs a year ago. But he's really been a one-man offense in Seattle. Felix Hernandez is 5-0. He's been a one-man pitching staff in Seattle. Everybody else on that team, the other 23 guys, have all underperformed, and that's why the Mariners find themselves below 500 and staring up at an uncommonly good Houston Astros team that, seemed like they were a lock for losing 90 games every year or even 100. And suddenly they're running away with the AL West a month into the season. And the Mariners, a team that everyone thought would be in the playoffs, are not, because they're not getting the contributions from guys, those young players that we've been waiting for, particularly in the starting rotation. Taijuan Walker and James Paxton, I think, have 1 win combined. Their ERA combined is over 7. And Hisashi Iwakuma isn't becoming the reliable, number 2 or 3 starter. It was always Felix Hernandez and everybody else in that rotation. You're not going to win a lot of games with one guy in your lineup and one guy in your rotation. And I think that's, to me, the most surprising team. I mean, the Washington Nationals, but I still feel like they're going to turn it around at some point.
Yeah, Seattle, the thing that's really hurting them is they're just not getting on base. Robinson Cano, his OBP is below 300. Kyle Seager, who they gave a big contract to last year, OBP under 300. Nelson Cruz has 14 home runs as we sit here right now. He's hitting them with no one on base. 11 of those have been solo home runs. He's got 14 home runs and only 26 RBIs. That tells you all about how unclogged the Mariners' bases have been. If they can turn it around, I think their pitching staff can turn it around too, but they've got to get more offense. It seems like this is the same story we talk about every year with the Seattle Mariners. Are they going to get enough offense to back up what should be a very good pitching staff?
Yeah, and those aren't the only teams, right? There's several others. The Pittsburgh Pirates, Boston Red Sox, the Washington Nationals, all of these teams, not a very good April, not a very good first month of the season. We'll have to see what the next 5 months have in store. For Steve Cannella, I'm Ted Keith.